And now we're going to talk about Hitchcock.
Frank Dello Stritto.
Frank, how are you?
All right, you're calling early, Joe. We got lots of time tonight, huh?
Yes, and Jeff, how's the audio for Frank? It's great. Okay, Jeff Dearman's our director.
Okay.
In front of me, Frank, I have my VHS of Hitchcock Volume 1.
Okay.
Now, what I love about these VHS tapes is, as much as I like DVDs better for play, on the back, 39 steps, 86 minutes, it's got black and white. They're all black and white. It's got the stars. It's like having a good old vinyl album in your hand, you know?
Well, what I like about VHS tapes is that I can stop them at a certain point, take it out of the machine, bring it to another machine, and start out right where I started.
Ah.
And when I can't do that with DVDs. When I give talks on horror movies, I want to show clips from like a dozen movies.
Right.
With DVD, you can't do that with DVDs. So I still have, when I give talks about horror movies. That's the only ones I have. But any movie I think I might mention in a talk, I have to have a VHS of it because the technology doesn't let me do anything else.
Now, what's funny is the VHS has four movies, and as you know, that Hitchcock thing I got has 20 episodes, 20 movies, and some of the Alfred Hitchcock show. Mm-hmm. You have the list in front of you, right?
I have the list. Well, we're going to talk about 3 of them tonight. Is that correct?
Whatever you like. You're the boss. You're programming the station.
Okay. Okay. Well, since I'm out of town next week. I'm going to be in Turkey next week, so I can't talk to you next week.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you, what are you doing in Turkey, if you can say?
No, I'm a secret agent on the Orient Express, getting secrets out of Russia. No.
I thought you were getting us information for our show.
Anything I can tell you, I will. No, my wife has always wanted to see Turkey, and so this is her Christmas present. And it's also her Valentine's Day present and her birthday present, because this is not cheap. But anyway. So, no, nothing exotic. We're tourists.
Turkey is exotic.
Well, I mean, Turkey's exotic, but my reasons for going are not clandestine or business-related or anything.
That's what they all say when they are clandestine.
That's right. I have to say that. If I told you the truth, I'd have to shoot you, and then they'd shoot me.
I hope you find some Bela Lugosi stuff in the libraries.
Not likely.
Yeah, I know.
It's not impossible that he had Turkish blood in him somewhere along the line. If you look closely at his eyes, there's a certain Oriental tinge to them. But not likely. He has nothing to do with Turkey that I know of.
Speaking of films, as we're here, Harriet Schock just rang me. I rejected it, of course, because we're on the air, but she wrote the theme to Berry Gordy's Last Dragon.
Okay.
So I know you like films, so I bridge the gap between the music world and the film world with movies.
Hey, if I had ever heard of Berry Gordy's Last Dragon, I might be able to say something intelligent, but I'll leave that to you.
Well, Berry Gordy's Last Dragon, I'm thrilled with it because Harriet wrote the theme, but sung by Smokey Robinson. But it's a kung fu movie from the kung fu era, you know?
All right.
And
I didn't realize Berry Gordy's the Motown man, right?
Yep, very good, Frank. Wow.
Hey, I'm coming up the slope there on knowing about music figures. I had no idea he produced movies, but
oh yeah, he produced Diana. He bet the house. The guy was really a risk taker because he bet the whole Motown house on Lady Sings the Blues. Mm-hmm. Of course, Diana was his girlfriend.
I remember that.
While he was married. The worst kept secret in the world that he was dating Diana Ross.
I guess I didn't know it was a secret. I mean, if I knew it, it had to be pretty
well, I mean, the guy was married and he was, going out with Diana, which is why it was Diana Ross and the Supremes. She's dating the president of the label.
Yeah, well.
But he bet the house on Lady Sings the Blues, as the urban legend has it.
Well, maybe. I mean, a lot of these very successful men get there by playing double or nothing, and they win.
But he was already there. I mean, he wanted to get to the next level, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't just take the whole thing that you already have and go that far in, but he did.
Well, nor could I, but that's what makes great men. Walt Disney was there, but he bet the farm on Disneyland and was told not to. Warner Brothers wasn't there, but they bet the farm on sound, and that came in big for them. So, that the history is written by people who take chances.
I like that quote.
You can have it. I just made it up. It's probably not original. It seems so easy to say, but you can have it.
History's made by people who take chances.
Well, I used to say history is made by unhappy people. If you're happy, you're not going to change anything. But if you're unhappy, you might go out there and change the world.
Huh. Well, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy, and I'm going to change the world. And we're doing it right now here on Visual Radio Live.
Yes, we are. Okay, you're showing. Okay, I'm going to talk about 3 movies, which I guess you'll be showing over the next 3 weeks, starting next week, right?
Yeah, 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, and well, before you do, when you're coming back from Turkey?
Well, I'll be back. Let's see. I'll be out next week. I'll actually be get back the Wednesday thereafter. So 2 Wednesdays from now. So I'll be in America for the next show, but I'll be right off a plane, and we can talk if you like. But I might be jet lagged, so you might be able to interrogate me, and I'll give carelessly truthful answers.
All right. So today is the 10th, and next week's the 17th. You'll be in Turkey.
Yeah.
And then the 25th you'll be back. But if you don't want to talk, that's okay. And then we can do the 31st. The February 1st.
31st, I'll be back up to speed over my jet lag.
Cool. February 1st, I guess.
February 1st, January 31st is the Thursday. February 1st, I think, is the Friday.
Okay, good. So, right, January 31. All right. So, first movie up.
Easy Virtue. It's a 1928 movie, and in 1928, silence movies are basically dying. They're all but dead in America, and they're still around in Britain because the big thing slowing down the transition to sound is the money it takes to put a sound system into a theater. So there's still silent movies being made. Not too long after this, Hitchcock is not even 30 yet, by the way. He's 29. He has, he has met and married his wife, Alma, who was played by Helen Mirren in the movie that came out a few weeks ago. And so he's been married to her, and I think while he's making this movie, or shortly before it, she gives birth to their first and only child, Patricia Hitchcock, who is still with us. I think she lives in California, lives a quiet life. I think she's heir to whatever Alfred Hitchcock had, and since he kept a lot of rights to what he made, especially the TV show, unless she sold them, she is pretty well set. Anyway, first of all, the 2 silent movies I'm talking about tonight, I'm surprised how good they were. I kind of dread it when you ask me to watch silent movies, because I'm not a big silent movie fan, but these are pretty good. This is a serious movie. Starts off in a courtroom with a divorce, and divorce doesn't impress us much these days, but when I was writing my first book on Bela Lugosi, I interviewed an elderly Englishman who had worked with him, and he told me that when he was a young man, he was fired from his job because he got a divorce, and that was a company rule: no divorced people can work here. And when I pressed him on that, he said he agreed with the rule. He thought he should have been fired. So our mentality has changed in that. But when you watch this movie, it starts with a divorce, which in itself was a very scandalous thing. And this woman is in divorce, like I guess this is fairly well-to-do people, so it has made the scandal sheets, and she is living with that stigma. So this is a fairly serious movie. It's not a comedy. It's not, Hitchcock has made what we would call a Hitchcock movie. In 1926, he made The Lodger about Jack the Ripper. So we would call that a Hitchcock movie. This is not really what we think of when we think of a Hitchcock movie. It's kind of a serious social drama among the upper set. And when a woman who once branded as a divorcee, as a loose woman, and like it or not, in those days, I think when these things happened, most of the blame was piled on the woman's head, and she has to live with that. So she remarries, but tries to keep her identity secret, and that's all I'll go into, because then the rest of the plot is there. But this is not a happy ending movie, and it's rather serious in tone, and it's surprisingly watchable. The print I was able to find to watch for this, I watched a couple of nights ago, had no music to it, and I like I think a good musical score really enlivens a silent movie. I watched this in total silence, and it was quite good. So I can really recommend this to your people.
Hey, Frank, I got a couple of questions to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Were these done in London?
Actually, I was just counting that. These would have been shot in London, but they had location shooting on the Riviera. So the historians among you, if you watch closely, you'll see shots of the Riviera as it was in 1928. The crew actually went down there. Now, this happened more in British silent movies than you think, but all they had to do was pile a cameraman, and a director, and some of the cast onto a train, and across a train the coast, across the channel, a train to the south, and so within 24 hours, maybe a little over 24 hours, you could have your whole crew down there. And the reason you've seen King Kong, right?
Of course.
Okay,
Many times.
the original. Okay, of course you have. The Carl Denham comes on shore, and he's got a cameraman, and if you watch it closely, you'll realize he's making a silent movie because there's no sound equipment. and we don't realize how easy it was to go on location before the age of sound, because basically you had a camera, and sometimes you had a hand cranked camera. So it wasn't a big technological leap to go over there. So they do that, and so anyway, if anybody wants to see the way the Riviera looked, you'll get some nice shots of it from 1928, and I believe that's where the Hitchcock cameo is of the three movies that we'll be talking about tonight. If I ever get to the second and third one, this is the only one that has a Hitchcock cameo. Again, Alfred Hitchcock is not yet making regularly what we think of as Hitchcock films, so his cameo is not a given in it, but there is in this one, and he's strolling by a tennis court, and I'm trying to remember. I briefly caught him last night. I think they're in the Riviera when it happens, and I looked it up later. It happens 13 minutes into the film.
And I want to tell our audience, we're talking about Easy Virtue, a 1928 film by Alfred Hitchcock. And my question to you now is, he was employed by a British film company, I assume.
Yeah, I believe this was Gainsborough.
So
Hollywood hasn't discovered him yet. No, actually, he's had a big hit with The Lodger, 1926, but he is not Hollywood bound yet. So he is making British movies, and I believe this is Gainsborough Films.
now, The Lodger, big hit in America?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay, so they
Britain. Well, you bring up a good point. There was a real gradient for getting British movies into America. So it was a big hit in Britain, and it kind of put him on the map. I think it did well in America, but it certainly wasn't a showstopper in America. But British movies were seen as kind of inferior, even by the Brits. And when sound came in, it even made it worse, because you had Hollywood producing in English, so English language films coming from Hollywood were just so much slicker and higher budgeted and more famous people. I can't honestly say I know a lot about the box office in America, but this is where The Lodger is where eyes first went on him.